Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Nairobi Health Show, where we have a maybe clickbait sounding title, but it's really not. How to be really lean, athletic, a world-class performer, and eat chocolate every day with Brad Kearns. Brad, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh my gosh, how fun to be on live with you, Dave. I know we're going to hit it hard here for a quick message, but it's a great subject for me, and I really have become a dark chocolate connoisseur. You know, I don't drink alcohol, so I sit back and watch the wine people go through their things, and I feel left out, you know. But when you start to learn more about dark chocolate and how wonderful of a nutritious food it is, and how great of a treat it is. But I think also we're going to need to talk about the distinctions in the marketplace between what's a lousy mass processed product and then what's quality. So wherever we want to go with this, yeah.
Yeah, sounds great. And this came about because I interviewed Brad a couple months ago. And for those of you who don't know, Brad is a New York Times bestselling author. He holds Guinness World Records. He's a #1 ranked speed golfer. He's a high jumper. He was a professional triathlete for years. He's got a fascinating backstory. And kind of at the end, kind of casually, kind of a throwaway remark, he said something about eating chocolate every day. And I didn't really dive into it, but it stuck with me. I was like, hang on a minute. This is just not what we picture Guinness record-holding athletes doing every single day. Now, Brad, before we jump right into the nitty-gritty on that, I right away want to overcome some comments that I can hear some people making, like, oh, this guy probably works out 15 to 20 hours a week. He can eat whatever he wants. Now, would you just address that real quick? Because there are people that believe that and aren't they're not up on the latest in nutrition and how that works.
Yeah, that line needs to be retired forever. And the late Jim Fixx, who was a best-selling author back in the 70s and credited with driving the running boom in America, he wrote a complete runner's training log, and it was a perennial bestseller. But he used to gloat in the pages about how runners can eat whatever they want because if the furnace is hot enough, anything will burn. And there's some there's some validation to that statement, especially when we're talking about sugar and how bad sugar is for the body. But if you finish a workout and your glycogen stores are depleted and you go and get a bag of Skittles and a Slurpee, you're not getting any nutrition, but that sugar will be immediately redirected to the glycogen stores rather than wreaking havoc as it would if you were sitting at your desk having a bag of Skittles. So you do get a little bit of a free pass for being an active person when it comes to consuming something that has minimal nutritional value and just calories. Now, I also say as an athlete or someone who's fitness interested, we need more from our diet than the average person who's just going down the path of disease and decline. And so I kind of emphasize, even to the fit people that have earned that hall pass to go consume something that's not nutritious, think twice and go to find the most nutritious foods that you actually enjoy and give you a performance and recovery benefit. And that's, of course, going to set us up for dark chocolate. But Jim Fixx died of a heart attack on the road doing one of his beloved runs. So he was a very fit individual. And we now know from research over many decades that even the fittest people are not immune from the heart disease and the disease processes that come from largely a bad diet and other adverse lifestyle practices. So you cannot outrun or out-exercise a bad diet.
Excellent. And just one tiny little point I'll add on to that. I can work really hard on my rowing machine, very high intensity workout, and burn about 240 calories in half an hour. and that's the equivalent of one soda, right? If you eat a milkshake, it's 900 calories. It's a lot of work to burn off the calories. So that type of thinking, we just kind of got to get rid of it. But that being said, you and I both share something, and that is that we're both enthusiasts of health, and we also both have a sweet tooth. And interestingly, I was watching, what's his name, Cavalier, who does the Athlean podcast on YouTube channel. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, Jeff Cavalier.
He was like Jeff Cavalier, thank you. Just the other day, I was watching one of his videos, and he addressed this exact same thing. He said, I don't cut out my sweet tooth. I have, he does it with sweet yogurt. Every night he has yogurt with his dinner. He's like, yeah, this isn't helping me with my goals, but it's keeping me sane because the rest of my nutrition is so clean. It seems like your attitude is similar to that.
Well, I've had a major transition in my diet starting in early 2022, and I love talking about it in a short version since we're on a quick show here. It's meat and fruit as the centerpiece of human health, and so I'm taking a concerted back step, large, giant backpedaling from the restrictive diets that have been so popular in the progressive and ancestral health movement in the last several years. So you talk about things like keto, low carb, intermittent fasting, time restricted feeding. All these diets have magnificent health benefits. I've written about them and talked about them for many years. But for someone who's healthy and athletic and energetic and has fitness goals and wants to have a more active lifestyle, which is probably among the best things you can do for longevity, restricting carbs or restricting the time periods that you're eating must be considered a stressor to the body. And so when I'm talking about stacking the various stressors in my life, like my hectic day, as well as my high intensity sprint workout, and then you want me to go home and fast or carefully limit my carbs to keto, we have to expand the conversation to say natural, nutritious, easy to digest carbohydrate sources like fruit can be a wonderful centerpiece of the human diet like they have been for 2 million years. And it's important to rethink this because I think a lot of people think less carbs are better because we group all carbs together. And yes, you don't need a pizza to be a healthy person or giant bowls of pasta or cereal. But I've made that distinction and made a concerted effort to consume more fruit in my daily diet.
Okay, interesting. So all that being said, we've put aside some misconceptions, hopefully, and also acknowledge that you're mostly eating a very healthy diet and you're also keeping up a very rigorous training regimen. And now let's talk about the chocolate. So you're a fan of dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate versus milk chocolate conveys the percentage of sugar versus the percentage of cacao. And the cacao bean where chocolate is made from, that's what has all the wonderful health benefits, the polyphenols, antioxidants, the phenylalanine, they call it the love drug because it's mood elevating. You have benefits for cardiovascular. All these come from the cacao. It's like talking about alcohol and red wine's good for your health. That's because of the grapes and the antioxidants from that. It's not from the alcohol, which is a poison to the body. So when I talk about chocolate, the first critical distinction is that dark chocolate is a health boosting food and milk chocolate is largely a source of sugar. And a lot of times the main mass produced bars are made with inferior cacao beans, largely sourced from child slave labor in Africa. So when you're buying inexpensive candy bars or milk chocolate bars, that's a disaster for your health. But when you can source the most gourmet and well-made, that's called bean to bar dark chocolate with a high cacao percentage. So right on the label of dark chocolate bars, it'll say 70% or 85% or 90%. That conveys how much cacao is in there. And so anything over around 70% is a low sugar and high nutrition delicious product. It takes a little bit of time to habituate away. If you've been eating Milky Ways and Nestle's Crunch your whole life, the dark chocolate is going to taste a little bitter. But I've habituated very quickly away from a lifetime of enjoyment of this and that chocolate to now I like the very high cacao percentage and the wonderful, rich taste of a savory dark chocolate bar that's up at 80% dark chocolate, for example.
And how much are you having in a day?
Oh, Dave, I'm embarrassed to say, but I will say, as we talked about before we recorded, I've limited my indulgences to dark chocolate. So I'm no longer floating through life wondering if I want the creme brulee or the cheesecake or whether I'm going to go get another pint of ice cream because there's a new flavor. I want to get rid of the foods that aren't serving me nutritionally and have the most nutrient dense diet possible. But I also, like you talked about Cavalier, we want to enjoy our lives. We're burning a lot of energy. We deserve a little treat now and then. So my sole and primary treat are these wonderful dark chocolate bars that I source from all over the world and I spend a lot of money on. I probably eat, let's say, an average of a bar a day, which is a lot, but it's super fun and it keeps me kind of focused. And I'm not going to eat 5 bars a day, right? So it kind of limits my indulgences to something that's sensible. And then I don't worry about looking for all these other types of treats that I might need to feel like I'm enjoying my life.
So you get your fix. and it's healthy, it's supporting your lifestyle, and it's keeping you from that psychology that we all have, where if we finally break down for a sweet, it might be just go crazy and binge, and kind of go over the top once we've kind of taken that first bite. And I don't know about everyone else. This is me now I'm talking about, but I think a lot of other people can relate. Now, when it comes to fine chocolate, I'm like you. I have a sweet tooth. I used to love whatever type of chocolate bar. And I had to acclimate. I think that's the word you used. I like it, to dark chocolate, to where now I love it. And it took a little time. And Madagascar is my favorite. And I love these bars that have ingredients. And they usually say something like ingredients. So there's only 3 or 4. It's like beans, milk, and a little bit of sugar, or some butter. It's really, really, the ingredients lists are very short on these really fine bars.
Yeah, to distinguish between a poorly made bar that is largely sourced from child slave labor in Africa, that's an important point to notice. If you're purchasing a cheap chocolate bar, dark chocolate, milk chocolate from a mainstream source, you're supporting child slave labor in Africa. So the farmers that get a fair price, it's called fair trade. So you might see that designation on the label, or you see the designation bean to bar. So the person who creates, roasts, and prepares the chocolate into a bar knows where they got the beans. So look for bean to bar, fair trade, and the ingredient list should have cacao beans as the first ingredient. That means the maker started with the actual beans from the farmer, rather than a commodity product that you buy in barrels on the stock exchange. Like it'll say chocolate liqueur or chocolate, or dark chocolate will be the first ingredient on the label. It sounds innocuous, but you really want to scrutinize and look for cacao beans as the first ingredient.
What are your favorite sources? Where are you buying these fine chocolate bars?
Oh, I have so many great brands. Askinosie.com. Sean Askinosie is the proprietor there, and he had an amazing career change where he went from a trial lawyer to a guy who wanted to make chocolate, and it's a great story. I had him on my BRAD podcast. And there's a website called cacaorunners.com based in Europe, and they have, hundreds of different bars. So you can go on there and buy 10 different ones and see which one you like, and then find the manufacturer of those. So there's a lot of great makers. I have some great chocolate from Hawaii called Puna Chocolate. I like Lily Bill Farms in Oregon. Shout outs all around. I just found Cacao Princess that's made in Mexico, and it's one of my favorites. So it's an ongoing journey to find these new labels and slightly different. You start to become sophisticated. One thing to do. So first, I want you to look for bean to bar on the label, and then secondly, when you put that chocolate in your mouth, take a small square and melt it on your tongue. Do not bite into chocolate. The true chocolate connoisseur is going to put that square on their tongue and let the flavor melt. You can press it up against your palate. It'll take many minutes to work through one square. That's why when you ask you how much chocolate I eat and I say a bar a day, that's a lot of savoring. That chocolate's in my mouth for a long time. But when you chomp down on a chocolate, it's kind of like the wine snobs are going to look at you wrong if you're drinking wine out of a paper cup. You got to savor that chocolate flavor.
Interesting. I'm glad you fit that out. And for people who aren't that adventurous yet, but they got their Prime account, are there some bars on Amazon that are just easy to get for people to kind of dip their toe in the water and get started?
I prefer that website I mentioned, because Amazon, it's difficult to determine whether you're getting a quality bar. And so I mentioned the label. The other one I should mention is that you're going to pay a lot more for a quality dark chocolate bar. You're going to expect to pay $3 to $4 an ounce. So a typical size bar is going to be $12 instead of $3.50 that you might see in your health food store or natural foods market. So that's an adjustment. But again, it's kind of like wine. You want to buy a cheap, lousy wine that's got chemicals and lousy grapes. And live your life that way. So we're talking about a little bit of a budget outlay for a quality bar, but you're going to enjoy it so much more. You're going to know the farmer's got a fair price, if that means something to you about sustainability and making an imprint on the planet. So if you're looking on Amazon, you can look for the price point as a guide to help you navigate.
Or hopefully some of these brands you've mentioned have an outlet on Amazon. So you're getting the exact same stuff. That's worth checking into. And one whole bar is a lot. I was up in Seattle, a couple months ago, 3-4 months ago, And we went out to Bainbridge Island, and there's this
Mm.
fine store out there that has multiple of these bean to bar brands. And I picked out 3 bars, and they lasted me a few months. And so this price tag of $12 doesn't have to, you don't have to be like Brad and eat the whole thing every day. Because of what he said, I can take like 2 squares off of a lot of these after dinner and take tiny bites and really enjoy them for a while. And so it just depends on how you eat them. And so you don't have to spend $12 a day on this habit. You can eat less if you can convince yourself to be satisfied with less of the bar. I suppose.
I never thought of it in those terms of price per day. Now I'm really tripping, because that puts me up in a high category. I'm like, what am I doing here? Oh boy.
It's a lifestyle thing though, Brad. I mean, I'm not criticizing what you're doing at all. I'm just kind of, I'm just thinking for the people who are going $12 a bar, that, for me, the switch from lower quality foods to higher quality chocolate was taste, first of all, and then price. And so that's what I did. I just trained myself to enjoy small little pieces for a long time and be quite satisfied after 2 or 3 squares.
Love it, Dave.
Well, Brad, and last time you came on the show, we sent you some supplements. What did you pick out? We gave everyone a $100 gift certificate. So I don't often have a second interview with people. What did you pick out from our website?
Oh my gosh, the mineral drops are a fantastic centerpiece to my daily smoothie. And it's difficult for me to have all these different supplements on my shelf, and I forget to take some, and I wonder if these work or these don't. And so that one, you're getting that comprehensive support. You wrote about it so nicely on the website. So I direct people who are interested to read about these products and see what you're getting, because it's difficult to source a similar type of supplement. So I'm got that mineral support in the dropper. It recommends the portions that you take, and I do like double or triple that, because I'm like, more is better on some things, especially when you're have that high potential to get mineral depleted in our daily diet, our daily life. We know about magnesium, how the soil's depleted. It's the number one most glaring deficiency across the population. So I'm really happy with that. I've drunk it straight. It tastes fine. It's not like this nasty thing I have to mask in my smoothie, but I just put it up on the counter and throw a bunch of other things every morning in the smoothie. So I really appreciate that opportunity to try the Doriwobi products.
Well, thank you so much. That's Mimi's Miracle Minerals. Thanks for the plug there, Brad. I appreciate that. For those of you interested,
it's a miracle. It's absolute miracle.
It's a miracle. And Brad, tell us how people learn more about you and how they follow you on your socials or whatever you want to share.
Oh gosh, go to bradkearns.com. You'll be regaled by videos of speed golf, because Dave mentioned that. You might not know what it is, but I'd love for you to listen to the Be Rad podcast as well, wherever podcasts you enjoy. And love connecting with people. Love what you're doing too. So I'm glad we could get on and talk chocolate, among other things.
I shot for 10 minutes and I realized that there's no way. At the 10-minute mark, I was like, we are not. But hey, it's under 20, which is still a lot shorter than my older podcast. So I hope people enjoy this episode and now feel some sense of how they can feed their sweet tooth without hurting their health goals.
And remember those main points. I really like to spread the word. I've been so inspired by Sean Eskenazi and his story. And it's pretty straight up when someone's looking you in the eye and saying, if you buy cheap chocolate, you're supporting child slave labor in Africa. That will help you navigate and not worry too much about paying what is truly a fair price to these hardworking farmers in the equatorial nations, where they're not making a killing like people in the developed world, but they love what they're doing. And you can learn. Many of the bars have beautiful stories on them where you can read and see. Eskenazi, all of their bars have a picture of the farmer from the Philippines or from Costa Rica or from wherever they got that exact bar's product from this guy, Jose, and you can read about how he works hard every day in the fields, and it's super amazing. I've taken tours of some of the plants. If you're in Seattle, you can go to Theo, which is a large chocolate maker, and they'll show you how chocolate is made from the big gunny sacks of beans that they shipped in, from across the world, and then they start roasting them and conching them, and then they're pressing them into bars in the last window, and it's super fun to build a hobby like that, which is also connected to your health.
Very, very cool. Well, Brad, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been a fun episode, and I'm inspired. I'm gonna take note. By the way, I'm gonna publish this content on our blog, and I'll let all of our social followers and people on our email list know. And I'll go through all those brands that Brad mentioned and put links to them,
I'll
so
send you
that
all
this
that
is
stuff.
easy for you to find.
Happy to
Oh, that'd
connect.
be
And
great.
anyone can email me for more details. And my top secret, one of my favorite stories was on the island of Kauai. There was a great bar that I found in a store. I think it was, at the airport or something. And so I looked them up and sent a message, and they said, "Oh, if you want to meet by the roadside at this highway and this little parking lot, I can give you some of our new batch." So I met this chocolate maker, just pulled over during
wow.
vacation. I told the people in the car, "Hey, wait, I gotta do a drug deal here on the side of the road." And I came in there, and we hit it up, and I got 10 of the most delicious bars. And you can find these actual people that are living their dream and making this wonderful end product. And it's kind of a little a niche world when you go into one of those shops and find the bean to bar selections. It's really neat. Kind of like wine, except there's no alcohol involved.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Brad, thanks again. It's been terrific.
Thank you, Dave.
And for those of you listening, this is Dave Sherwin wishing you health and success.